Hey there everybody, it's Chris, and I thought for this video I would try kind of an experiment. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to try one of my thoughts on silicone. So what I did do with these guys, because they were a little bit loose, now they're nice and tight, I just spritzed the backs with water, and then I've let those dry for a bit here and let them air dry. Today I'm going to do an experiment with silicone. So I've kind of labeled what each one of these canvases will be. The first one we won't use any silicone at all. The second one I'm using silicone in the ultramarine blue only. And then in the third one I'll use it in the ultramarine blue and the black. All of my paints are mixed with my pouring medium. So I'm using the Artist Loft White from Michaels, and that's mixed with my pouring medium. And then I've got my cups of paint that have silicone in them. This is my black, and I put about probably 3 drops of the treadmill lubricant into this one, and I'm just going to kind of give it a quick little stir. I don't want to stir it a lot because it's going to get mixed up in the cups. And then this is my ultramarine blue. It probably has about 4 drops of silicone in it, just because it's got quite a bit more paint than the other two do, because we're using that in 2 of the canvases. So I'm going to start with, I think I'll start with my color. So this is my ultramarine blue that I keep mixed up, and I like to use the condiment bottles to mix my paint. So I'm just going to kind of start, I'm just going to do a dirty cup pour. So I'm not going to worry about layering my paints in. I'm just going to kind of pour my paints in, and this is my black. And then I think we will put some white in there, and I might do a couple of layers in here. And just going to pour that in. I'm using 7-ounce cups, so I think I need probably about, I would say 5 ounces of paint, I would think. So I'm just going to put some more blue over here on this side. That should be plenty of blue. And then a little more black. And then I'm just going to top it off with the white again. I just want to make sure that I have enough paint in all of these guys. Okay, so next we're going to do silicone in the blue only. So I think I'll start with the black on this one, so that I can kind of watch how much blue I put in it, because I need to make sure I save enough for the second one that we do. So just going to kind of pour some of that down the side, and then we'll add in some of the white. So my white is the only one in all of these that does not have silicone in it. And then I think we'll add just a little bit more paint in here, make sure that we have enough to cover the canvas. And we'll put just a little bit more blue in there because I don't want to short myself on the last one. And then a tiny bit more white, and we're going to call that one good. Okay. So it seems like I seem to see some stuff going on in this one. This one, not so much. Okay, so with this one then, I've got black, blue, and then both of those have silicone, and then my white again of course does not. So we'll start with the black and the blue, and then we'll add some white to that, and then we'll come back and add, I kind of hate to use too much of the black because I don't want the black to take over, which it sometimes can do. All right, and then we're going to use the rest of the blue. And I'm just going to scrape that out to make sure that I get the rest of it out of there, because I want to use all of my paint. And then we're going to top this guy off with some more white. All right, that looks pretty good. I think my white is a little bit thicker than it usually is. So, all right, so I did spray my cups with the WD-40 silicone. This one just got lightly sprayed. I don't add enough to add cells to it. I'm just getting it to the point where it will release my paint. I hate to have paint stuck in the bottom of my cup. I don't like to waste it that way. I waste it in other ways, but I don't waste it with having it stuck in my cup. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these guys over. I don't really see a whole lot of stuff going on yet. This is the first cup. This doesn't have any silicone in any of the colors, so we'll flip this over on the first canvas. This is the second cup, where it just has in the ultramarine blue. Once again, not really seeing a whole lot of stuff going on yet. Flip it over. And this is the third cup, where it's black and blue, has silicone, and then of course the white does not. Once again, not really seeing a whole lot of stuff going on, so hopefully we get some good cell action sooner or later here when we dump these guys out. So you can see that the paint's releasing here. These guys have the black paint in the bottom, so we may not see that one quite as well. I can see a little bit of blue here, so I think this one is releasing. And I can totally see it on the side of the cup, which you guys probably cannot see, but it's definitely releasing out of this one. Okay, so this is the one that has no silicone. I've got a lot of paint in there, holy cow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some of that up here and some of it down here to help coat the cover, or we'll just add that to help coat the canvas. I do have some cells. I can see them, you guys probably aren't able to see them yet, but I can see a few cells popping up here. And I think that's probably just from the pouring medium that I use. Okay, this one has silicone in the blue. I'm gonna tilt this one a little bit so I don't lose all that pretty paint off the side. Okay, this one you can totally see the cells popping. Much better than the other one. I'm just gonna run this down here a little bit so that I don't lose all my paint. And then we'll add this extra paint that's in the cup onto the corners so we don't lose that. You can totally see a difference. Holy cow, look at the difference in that. Now I'm really excited to see this one. So this one's just kind of wah-wah. I can see a little bit of stuff in it, but definitely not as much as this one. Okay, so let's see what the black and the blue did. I can totally see that I've got a lot of black in here, which was kind of my concern when I started pouring that. Just gonna run this guy down. I still have some paint in my cup. It's looking cool in the cup. So we'll run that up here and we'll put some of it down here. That blue is quite pretty. All right. Okay, so very interesting that they both of these guys had black in the bottom of the cup, and yet this one was so much more prevalent than the second one was. Getting a lot of cell action in this one too. This guy still doesn't have a ton. So I'm gonna use my torch and pop some of these bubbles and see if we can get some more stuff happening. Hopefully this gets some other stuff going on. Okay, after torching it, you can kind of see this one doesn't really have a lot of cells. I'm hoping as we tilt, maybe some more stuff will show up. This one's looking pretty neat, and this one has a ton of cells. Holy cow. All right, so let's start with this guy and we'll tilt this off a little bit. I'm gonna try to kind of go slow so that I don't lose what I do have. You can see when I torched this one, it really brought up some of the white through the paint. This one's not super exciting though, I have to say. And I do think it probably makes a difference to have used the ultramarine blue. Is probably not one of my colors that really does react a lot with cells on its own, like some of my other colors will. So that probably made a difference in the reaction that we have too. So there was probably other colors that I could have chosen that may have reacted a little bit better, but maybe it's good that I didn't choose a color that would do stuff on its own so that we can totally see what the silicone will do. Don't really want to lose that really pretty blue ribbon that I have there. So I'm going to see if I can tilt it and bring it back. And I totally lost that ribbon, but that's all right. All right, so I just want to go up to that upper right corner and see if I can get that to cover and go off the edge. Sorry that you're not able to see that. So totally lost the blue in this guy, and there was a ton of blue in those cups. Blue and black. The white just really seems to have taken over on this one that doesn't have silicone in it, which is not exactly what I expected it to do because I didn't feel like I put a lot of white in there. So that's kind of interesting that the white took over. We'll see, maybe as it sits, maybe some more things will come up. All right, so on to this guy. It's quite pretty with the blue. I'm gonna move this guy over just so that I don't tilt into it. And I'm gonna move this guy over. Hopefully you'll still be able to see it. This one's got some neat stuff going on the edges, so I think we'll go corner to corner and see if I can get that to flow over the corners rather than trying to lose. I don't want to lose what I have going on the edges, so I think we'll see if we can't pop those off of the edges and then slowly creep down here on the right, because I'd really like to save that. That's probably the most interesting part of the pours on the edges, which was actually the bottom of the cup that I poured on there afterwards. So it'll be interesting to see if some more things pop out on this as it sits. Okay, I'm going to turn this so that I can hang on to it a little better. I don't want to lose all that stuff, so I'm going to see if I can't catch this corner so that I don't dump all that fun stuff off. There we go. And then I'll just let that drip over, just like so. And then we're going to do the same thing over here, I think. Gets a little tricky to hang on to them once they have paint on the edges. So once again, I'll just come up here and hang on to this corner with my finger and then let that paint flow down. Try not to tip it really drastically so that I don't lose that fun stuff that I have going on that edge. I have to say the edges and the corners are a lot more interesting than the middle is, which is quite interesting to me. I would have not guessed that that's where the fun stuff would be, was the bottom of the cup that I dumped out. So hopefully some more things will come up on the corners, or excuse me, come up in the middle. All right, I'm going to spin this back around to get it back to the position it was in the first place. Really has some cool like fossil-like stuff going on these corners. Okay, and then for the third one is the one that had the black and the blue in it. There's definitely a lot more stuff going on in the middle. So I am going to try to catch this corner. Let's go off these other corners where it's not so exciting and get those covered first before we start dumping paint off. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. All right, and then I want to go over to this side. I really love those bands of blue and black that seem to be a lot more prevalent on this one that had the silicone in both black and blue. Hopefully you guys can see this. I apologize. See if I can move this over just a bit. I don't want to lose all of this cool corner here, so I'm totally going to try and catch this. And then I'll let it touch my fingers, make sure the corner's covered, and then let it go back up. And that way my blue will flow back up into the painting. And then I'll just let that go and let it cover on its own. And then up here, just gonna catch this corner as well. Just kind of let it slowly flow down there so that I don't dump off the really neat stuff going on. Boy, that first one just is not very exciting at all, is it, guys? Quite interesting. This is why you try things out. Usually, I'm kind of surprised. Usually my pouring medium will give me some pretty good cells on its own, but it sure didn't on this little experiment. All right, and then I'm just going to pull this back down so that I can get some cool action back into the center. And then I'll let that go and let it flow over the side. I have to say my runoff is quite pretty. Okay, so hopefully I've got all these guys back in frame for you guys. I'm going to move this one over so you can see it a little bit better. So I guess I would recommend that putting silicone in one color definitely does give you a lot more stuff. You can see some little things kind of popping up here. And I will let this go, and in about 30 minutes I'll come back and show you guys what they look like after they've sat for 30 minutes. Because I do find that they do tend to change. This one just really has some neat stuff going on. It's quite cool. It's interesting though that my blue just seems to have gotten lost, and I thought I had plenty of blue in there. So, all right, so I'm going to let these guys sit for about 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you how they look after they've sat a bit. Okay, so these guys have sat about a half an hour. You can see some more changes in the third one. The second one has a little bit more action, but the first one really doesn't have a whole lot more going on than it did 30 minutes ago. So I guess the moral of the story is if you want cells and you want them to be guaranteed, that you probably should add some silicone to your pour. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know.